Hi, this is Jimmy Fair, and I'm joining you from the Emergency Medicine Residency in Salt Lake City, Utah, at the University of Utah. So, for my Picha Kucha, I'd like to give you a brief presentation on an important toxicology subject, a little something I like to call a hot toxic. The topic I've chosen is entitled Intravenous Lipid Emulsion Cured by a Burger to the Bloodstream. Specifically, I'd like to talk about using IV lipids to treat deadly overdoses for substances like calcium channel blockers and tricyclic antidepressants. Here is an outline of what I would like to cover: what makes up IV lipid, or what I'll refer to as intralipid, what's the evidence, what are the side effects, how to dose it, and how do we remember what overdoses it works for. So what is it? You're thinking, IV lipids? That sounds like a burger and an IV. And that would be the best hangover cure ever. And you may be right, but unfortunately it hasn't been tested for that quite yet. So you'll have to hold off on that for your hangover cure. Actually, there's no meat product involved because intralipid is made from soybeans. It's already used to make up TPN and propofol. So what that means is that it's already widely available and has been tested to a large extent in other products, just in a smaller concentration. In the 90s, some animal studies accidentally found that intralipid was protective against bupivacaine toxicity in rats, and this eventually led to approval for intralipid use in local anesthetic systemic toxicity. After case reports came back showing the success of intralipid as a treatment for the lipid-soluble drug bupivacaine and other local anesthetics, people thought, hey, maybe this therapy would work on other drug overdoses by other lipid-soluble drugs. And it is these other drug applications that most apply to the emergency department and critical care settings. So how does this stuff work? What is the mechanism of action? Well, the lipid sink theory is the simplest proposed explanation and suggests that the increased lipid particles in the body act to sequester lipophilic drugs, rendering them inactive. This theory has been confirmed by both in vitro and in vivo methods. Other theories focus on the poisoned heart and suggest lipid may improve substrate to the heart or calcium to the myocytes. So, how do we know it works? Well, it has a pretty strong record in animal studies. Just to give you a taste of what's out there, let's look at this study that came out in Academic Emergency Medicine. So in this study, the researchers took two groups of dogs. To one group of dogs, they gave a toxic dose of verapamil to decrease their mean arterial pressure by 50%. Then they gave atropine, calcium, and normal saline. To the other group of cute, adorable puppies, they gave the same interventions, except as a substitution for the normal saline, they gave intralipid. And what they found when we look at their mean arterial pressures, the dogs receiving intralipid had much better blood pressures. And if we look at their mortality, all of those dogs receiving intralipid survived, whereas in the other group, well, at least we just hope all dogs go to heaven. While we do have good evidence in animal studies, the human data is unfortunately limited to case reports. But let's just take a look at one case report to get an idea of what's out there. So in this interesting case report, it dealt with a verapamil overdose. Verapamil is a particularly deadly drug to overdose on, and it is almost uniformly fatal if greater than 8 grams are ingested. Well, this woman ingested over 19 grams and went into profound cardiovascular collapse. She was refractory to improvement for 4 days, and then within 3 hours of starting intralipid, pressors were decreased by half and she steadily improved, regaining her own heart rhythm. Now, this is only a case report, but still pretty convincing, and there are a lot of other case reports out there that are pretty convincing as well. So, why not give intralipid? What are the side effects? I mean, it's already a component of TPN and propofol, which we use in the hospital every day. Well, I guess the lab machines don't like it so well when we send them a tube filled with what looks like bacon grease, because it does impair the lab's ability to interpret blood work properly. There are also theoretical risks of infection predisposition, especially to yeast, immune suppression, phlebitis, and hypersensitivity reactions. But again, these are potential risks, and there have yet to be any reported side effects of intralipid used for drug toxicity. So you may be thinking, well, it's all well and good, but how am I going to remember which overdoses I can use this therapy for? Well, here is a helpful mnemonic that I came up with. Just remember your triple ABCs of intralipid therapy. And that stands for anesthetics like bupivacaine and lidocaine, antidepressants, antipsychotics, beta blockers, and calcium channel blockers. So how would you give it? You want to give intralipid 20%. Start off with a 1.5 ml per kilo bolus, followed by 0.25 ml per kilo per minute infusion. It sounds confusing, but in a 70 kilo adult, this works out to 100 ml bolus up front, followed by a 1 liter per hour infusion after that. The bolus may be repeated. You do want to avoid the infusion for over an hour if possible, but again, these are guidelines as this is a new application of this therapy. So, in summary, intralipid is a promising additional treatment for many deadly drug overdoses. Just remember your triple ABCs of intralipid therapy: anesthetics, antidepressants, antipsychotics, beta blockers, and calcium channel blockers. There are, as of yet, no reported adverse effects of intralipid therapy, and the dosing is fairly easy. So I hope that was educational, and thanks for your time.